Hey everybody, Father Peter here. Welcome to my not-so-weekly video log. Welcome back. Hey, I hope you won't leave because the information that is coming your way, you're not going to want to miss. I'm up here at the St. Mark's Episcopal Church Cemetery, but really where I am is the location of the first meeting house of our church, St. Mark's Anglican Church. Take a look at this date, 1764. This cemetery predates the United States of America. It predates the Episcopal Church in the United States. But this is the place where the people of St. Mark's first gathered. In the 1830s, St. Mark's Episcopal Church moved. It was the time of the Second Great Awakening, and they wanted to draw closer to town to be a part of that. But guess what, folks? We are also living through a great awakening now. We are all being awakened to the power of the sin of racism and its great effect on the history of our country and its great effect on the lives of our brothers and sisters throughout our country and throughout the world. And this great awakening, particularly for white people, is a time of reckoning for us. The time has come for us to know who we are, to take a look at our history. The time has come for us as a parish to really lean into this work. I am so excited about it, and I know you're going to be excited about it. And the first place we're going to start is with our history. So think about it. When somebody gets amnesia, they cannot remember who they are, right? They can't remember their history. They can't remember their story. Well, the same thing is true for us as not just people, but as a parish and as a community. We must come to know our history so that we can come to know fully who we are. When we remember, we take all of the members together, and that's exactly what we want to look at. Going back to 1764, we want to take a look at all of the members of who we are and take a look at our history, including everybody. And it is out of that that I'm so excited that you're going to learn some incredible things. Over to you, Father Justin.
It's really an incredible story, Father Peter. So, Lisa Melland, a longtime parishioner here at St. Mark's and currently the chaplain of the DAR of the state of Connecticut, had been asked by the America 250 Commission, a group which is charged with planning events to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding in 2026. She'd been invited to spearhead the recording of a video to commemorate the life of Captain Stephen Betts, a local to Norwalk and New Canaan, local war hero of the Revolutionary War, and actually St. Mark's' founding father of sorts, our first senior warden, who's buried right here in front of me in the West Road Cemetery. Lisa invited me to be a part of this project. Now, I was aware that many white Anglicans of the colonial era were slave owners, and I did some research about Captain Betts before becoming involved in the project. I found a dissertation at the University of Connecticut, which actually included a table of slaveholders from the 1790 census, and found that Captain Betts was in fact listed in that census as a slave owner. He had one slave in his household at the time. I then began to do some research on Google and found a record on Find a Grave that said that actually Jesse Betts was his slave, and that Jesse is actually buried right here in the West Road Cemetery. In subsequent conversation with Lisa, who is an incredible historian, as you're going to see, we found that the historical record is actually more complicated. Lisa, why don't you have a word with us about what your research has unearthed?
Typically, when we research enslaved individuals, there's very little documentation available. If they are listed at all in any sort of record, it will be by an X or a double X or some sort of title lacking a last name. And so we were actually very fortunate to be able to find Jesse through federal census records. The first federal census took place in 1790, but it was very rudimentary. Census takers were not given a writing implement or something to write on, and they were not given a template as to the information to collect. So the only thing we can glean from that 1790 census is that Captain Stephen Betts was a slaveholder. And so the federal census took place every 10 years subsequent to that. And so we continue to see that same information in the census that was taken up until 1830, when a free man of color is listed in the Betts household. So Captain Stephen Betts passed away in 1832, and what we find in the subsequent census record is that there's an individual, a free man of color in the age range of 55 to 99, now residing in the household of Captain Stephen Betts' daughter, Esther. And she has married Lewis Raymond, and the household resides in Westport. In the 1850 census, we are now given a name for this individual because the 1850 census was now taking in far more, much more information than any census taken before. And we see a name affixed to this individual, and his name is Jesse Betts. Now, importantly, his last name is Betts, even though he is residing in Esther's household at the time. He's listed as being black, a farmer by trade, and under the category of those aged 20 and older who cannot read and write. In the 1860 census, Lewis Raymond has now passed away, and the household consists of Esther, Betts Raymond, and Jesse, and they have now moved to Norwalk. And Jesse is listed not with the Betts last name, but with the Raymond last name. And if you look at that actual census page, what you'll see is that Jesse initially had owned property. There is property, a dollar amount placed next to his name, and then that information was scratched out, and the only property being owned was listed under Esther. And I want to just mention again that he has the last name of Raymond there. So when Jesse passes away in 1862, at the age of 78, he is buried 2 gravestones down from the captain here in this cemetery. But Esther was still alive, and she would have understood the captain's importance to St. Mark's, and I believe that she would have overseen what was engraved on the gravestone for Jesse. And she chose the last name Betts, Jesse Betts. And the gravestone was placed 2 gravestones down from the captain's, which to me indicates a long-standing relationship between Jesse, the captain, and the Betts household. So it's important that we talk about Jesse in the context of slavery in Connecticut. And slavery in Connecticut began in the mid-1600s. And at one time, the colony of Connecticut had more enslaved individuals than any other New England colony. They were primarily in Fairfield County and in New Haven County. In the year in which Jesse was born, 1784, the Connecticut General Assembly created an act of gradual abolition, and it stated that anyone born into slavery after March 1st of the year Jesse was born, 1784, would be freed when they turned 25. But if we look at the census records for Jesse, when he had turned 25, he was not free. He wasn't freed for another 20 years. And so what does that mean? It could mean that he was born in January or February of that year, and he was never to be freed. And that was the dynamic that gradual abolition act created in Connecticut, where half of the enslaved individuals were to be freed when they turned 25, and the other half were never to be freed. It was not until 1848 that slavery in Connecticut was completely abolished. It was the last state in New England to abolish slavery. And now back to you, Father Peter.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Father Justin. Wasn't that fascinating? So as I said at the outset, we're going to be doing a lot more in the coming year. The first thing is we're going to have that task force that's going to look and explore our racial history. Lisa's going to oversee it. Thank you very much, Lisa. The second thing is we're going to be having anti-racism training for the clergy and for the vestry and for the staff. Some of us have already begun it. Fantastic, so rich. The third thing is we're going to have Maranatha house churches during Lent. They're going to be focused around Bible study and the experience of Black, Indigenous, and people of color and the richness of all that and what it has to offer to all of us. You're not going to want to miss this. And we have something very, very special. We're going to be doing our Maranatha house churches with St. Paul's in Norwalk, the very church that Captain Stephen Betts came from. What a beautiful thing after all these years for us to come together around this topic. The fourth thing is Father Justin, newly minted with his PhD. Way to go, Father Justin. He's going to be continuing his teaching. He's going to be talking about Howard Thurman. Ooh, a holy man of another era. He really was a mentor to Martin Luther King. He was a theologian, he was a minister, and he was a man of holy-heartedness. And he connects the Christian spiritual life with the work of justice, the hard work of justice. You're not going to want to miss Father Justin's class. And then it's not only for adults, it's for kids too. The Lion Cub magazine, which has been such a raving success, is going to have another issue. And in there, you're going to see an interview with Lise Least, a treasure in our community, interviewed by Will Lewis, just a treasure. You're not going to want to miss it when it all comes out. And then finally, Father Justin is going to be working with the youth of our parish around this whole question of dismantling racism. These are the young people who are also leading us forward. So there's so much more to come. God bless you. Thanks for hanging in here with me. Don't miss the annual meeting because there's going to be a lot more great information to come. See you later. Peace.